Good afternoon, I think it is. Good afternoon to everybody here on Eavesdrop. Hi, my name is Wulwyn. Traci was on shortly a while ago, and she got out. Right now, she's restarting her computer. But no, it's so good to be here. Sit back, relax. She should be on shortly. How's everybody doing this beautiful, if you're in wherever you are in the world, it must be morning, afternoon, evening, or night. But hope all is well. This is EP16, September 25th, 2024. So, what's on your mind? What's on mine? Traci's coming in here, and I think we're gonna have an excellent time here today. For those of you who are just coming, she had to restart her computer. But how's everybody doing? There she is. She is back in the building.
I am on my cell phone, right? I'm trying to reboot my computer. I have no idea. Something just glitched. And my entire computer seemingly exploded. So I have no idea what's going on right
now. You know what I think? I think
you said before that something was going to happen, and you were
right. Well, no, this is going to be a good one. It is going to be a good one. This will not supersede the electrical glitch we had here. I think you had the camera glitch before but it never stopped the show. So here goes. So welcome, Traci, this 25th day of September, EP16, season 5. How are you doing?
I mean, better. Well, so right before we came on, I was working on a slide deck that I have, and this is like the last bit of time I have to work on this slide deck because we're going to be going out of town, and then I have the presentation immediately when we get back. And so, and then all of a sudden things went wonky with my Google Drive, and then I had to jump on this, and then my computer did something strange. And so and I'm not, as you know, I'm not a tech person. So there's that part of me that's like, oh my gosh,
it'll be all right.
No, but my natural tendency is like, okay, I don't have time for this. But then we could all say, when did the time that we typically want or need them to?
I know, right? I know. Is it rebooting now, by the way?
Very slowly. Yeah, very
Very
slowly.
slowly.
What
Gotcha.
by that, I'll keep trying. But how are you doing?
I am excellent. So it's kind of choppy. It's coming in every other word or so. Is the microphone seated on of the telephone of your cell phone blocked?
No.
No. Okay, good, good, good. No, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Outside of, what's going on your end, I am feeling great.
Awesome. Fine.
So
So great.
why do I feel great?
Huh?
So you and I have been talking a while about human design, and you told me about it. I said, I don't know what this is. I'm not going to go in any astrology or whatever it is that this crazy woman is doing. And then I'm thinking that, and then I'm reading a word, and then I'm studying, and it says the the individuals came and they used the stars to locate Christ. And in that process of using the stars to locate Christ, I'm thinking these people are studying the stars. And as they're studying the stars, I'm going to myself, but hold up. It's, so many things that was created by God, by has been changed to the negative. It has been changed to the negative, where and then we tend to close ourselves to it so that we don't gain even more from it in order for us to do what we're supposed to do on earth.
Mm.
So as soon as that revelation came to me, I said to myself, hold up, I'm not going to close my mind, because one of the things it says test the spirits. So in testing the spirits, hey, I'm going to open up and see what this is and how it goes. And folks, I'll tell you this. We're gonna jump in it. I don't know if we're gonna do it online here. Just I think I have a feeling we're gonna just unfold certain things here. If that's okay with you, Tracy.
Totally
Um,
okay with me. That's that thing that you were talking
I,
about.
I know. So eavesdroppers, listen in. Please share this with others. And if you're listening in, as we say here on Eavesdrop, please comment. Please give us your input, because your input just might lead the conversation in the way it's supposed to be led. So Tracy, I think the floor is yours.
Well, so I love what you said about that, because one of the things, and this was a conversation I've had with a couple of people, but I was having just last night with my husband Jeff, and
Mhm.
this idea of, as he was saying, it's just so hard when you see a way through. Like, people are, like you said, closed or not looking. Let's just say they're not holding a particular perspective. They can't see it. It's a blind spot.
Gotcha.
And you really strongly know or feel, or whatever you want to call it, that having them see this perspective would be good for them.
Hmm.
And he said it's so hard not to push forward with trying to get them to see that perspective,
Mm.
because you just know it would be good for them. And the conversation we were having about that was, it's not our place to ensure or to force a readiness. It's our opportunity to invite people to that perspective,
Correct.
right? To be
Correct.
able to say, hey, there's this thing you might want to consider, put it on the table, and then not have attachment to what people do with it.
Mm.
And he just kept saying, that's so hard, it's so hard. I mean, he's like, it's easier with people who aren't closest to you. It's hard with family, it's hard with loved ones, it's harder, right?
Gotcha.
And I said, if I haven't learned anything, what I've learned in coaching is my only job is to share and invite. It is not to coerce, cajole, force,
Correct.
control, somebody, even if I feel like the results is tied to me. So in other words,
I might not be seen at the end of the day as good of a coach if they don't get to X point.
Correct.
Right. That is identifying with someone else's timeline, readiness, identity, like all those things. Like I'm purposely tying myself to them, which is not for us to do. And so back to what you were saying, and I loved it, is this tethering of ideas and belief systems. And, we really are being invited more into developing. So we have 4 intelligences, which I've shared before, and developing the other 3, right? The 1 intelligence, our cognitive, logical intelligence, head brain, right? Intelligence has been leading the way. It's been the 1 intelligence that we've really, really focused in on since the beginning of mankind, really. Although I can't say from the beginning of mankind, I would say probably from the beginning of us creating intentional systems, right? To, let's say, control mankind, but to give us societal systems and organizational systems, let's call it that. From the beginning of us creating organizational systems as humans, it's been very, head brain focused. And yet what happens is we languish in those other intelligences when we don't continue to feed them. We don't continue to nourish them and build them and grow them and even know that they exist, to begin with. And so that's what I heard you say, is that, there's part of you that, was making cognitive connections, like, wait a minute. But there were also connections being made of, from the other brains. So 4 brains, just real quick for this, if this is new to anybody, head brain, heart brain, gut brain, all come from neuroscience. But there's also the 4th one of intuition, which I like to call the spiritual intelligence. Our ability to tap in, we can say that's our connection to God. Some people say that's their connection to the universe. People use different language, but it's that knowing, capital K, that we can't explain how or why we know, but we just know. Gut, a lot of times people confuse gut with, so instinct with intuition. Instinct is more of a body feeling, like a body sensation.
Gotcha.
We'll get chills up the back of our spine, or like the other day I was in a conversation with someone and she was talking and it was resonating so deeply I felt chills throughout my entire lower body. That would be gut intelligence saying, yes, this is a yes.
Yeah.
This is an agreement, that you have to what you're hearing.
Goosebumps on me.
Goosebumps on you, pit in your stomach.
Correct.
All of that is your body instinctively, a need to run. You're not exactly sure why, but you need self-preservation instinctively. You got to get out of there. That's all instinct, but intuition is something different. And so at any rate, we're being invited to develop these intelligences further, because if we think about the time we're in and how much uncertainty keeps unfolding, and the shock and awe of, whoa, I didn't know that was that. And what, it's like we're lifting up these rocks and like, oh, I had no idea that was under there.
Yeah.
That in order to, we're going to be in cognitive disarray. I mean, how much have we been talking about the importance of mindfulness, but also of mental instability, right? How much mental illness there's going on, how much, we need to focus on our mental health. We just keep hearing this more and more. And that's because the time we're in cannot really be navigated intellectually. Not to say we can't make decisions intellectually. It's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just forget the mind altogether, but we can't figure things out mentally, because the time we're in many cases, we've never been in before. And that's where cognitive intelligence helps us. It pulls up all the data that we've already experienced, or we've already learned, or we've already adapted to in some way as a human population.
Yeah.
Right. The other intelligences help us navigate the unknown. Right. So tapping in and developing how we feel, like our emotional intelligence, our feelings are data points. They have a lot to share with us. Our instinctive sensations are data points. They have a lot to share with us. Our intuition, right, and what we pick up intuitively, data points, has a lot to share with us. So, as we learn that it can't just be this one brain, because this one brain is not really going to help us figure out the data points of all the rest of the stuff that is unknown to this brain. And so that's kind of what I heard you, whether you were aware of it or not, the process you were going through is that there were other data points coming to you that you
Mhm.
factored into that decision. And ultimately, what we have to do, we don't have to do anything, but like ultimately, what we might want to consider is being open and curious,
Mhm.
because that'll allow this brain to at least be on board. Otherwise, it is going to be sitting there arguing with us. That's not safe. You don't know that. That's stuff that goes against this belief. That, you know,
Correct.
and we're going to have this internal chatter that won't allow us to open up to these other data points.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, yeah, as I took, I think so. It's a 20-page document that was sent to me after you did what you did. I think I consumed it in 5 to 6 minutes. I mean, I was just uh, and from reading that fast, if anybody would, if anybody knows me, right, and that you give this document to them, it's a consummation, it's a summary of what God has done, how he's called me, how he's pushed me, put me into the onto this path that was there for me and that I obeyed.
Mm.
But I want us to. I'm okay. I'm open. Let's, if you want us to go through certain points in there that you want to pick up certain things that you knew about, and then you said, "Oh my goodness, this verifies with Wulwyn that this is what it is." You know, I think that is a good place for us to start, if it may. Hey, big sis says recognizing the variety of data points and giving yourself space to use them. Ah, yes.
Well, yeah, I like the way she phrased that. Well,
Yeah.
you know, and why don't you share what happened when you were reading through it and got to the last point?
Sure. Okay. So a couple shows ago, I believe we were speaking on, and you see, we were speaking about. I don't know how it came about, but I explained to you how when I was growing up, and even now, I love to be in closed spaces. One, in school, we had a right arm chair, and I sat against the left wall. So when you put a left arm chair against a right arm chair against the left wall, you have somewhat of a box with the other person ahead of you. And I would take my raincoat or whatever coat I would have, I would hang it on the back of the person's chair and bring it across mine so that I had a closed space in there. Fast forward, and it was just safe for me. I mean, I'm just going there going, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Rainy days, I go, "Ah, I love when it's raining." Verlin says, "What do you like about the rain?" I say, "I like how dark it is. I like how wet it is. I love the smell of it and all of these things." Now that's me saying I love. When but however, my design style is open space. It's open space. If I'm designing a house or drawing something, open floor plan, right? I'm doing. I can't stand cooped up places where I'm walking, right? But when I'm sitting and resting and doing what I need to do, I that's my environment. So in the report, and it's the last thing in the report. It goes, it breaks down what my environment is. And what my what my environment is caves. It says your human design outlines a space within which your body resonates best. There are 6 environments to study in human design: caves, markets, kitchens, mountains, valleys, and shores. Your body will resonate to one of these environments, each one calibrated to an archetype. When we're in our supportive environment, everything we need suddenly becomes available to us. And it goes on and on and on. And then it explains, don't think that you have to go to a cave. You're going to be in a place that similar, that represents that space. And that's when I went, there I am, finding myself in that space with my raincoat. There I am when it's raining outside, and I go, oh, I love this. And Tracy, when I it's the last piece on here, caves, that I went, oh, okay, I see it. So there were other things to be ahead, I mean, earlier on in the document that I was reading, yeah, there were, I think it was, I've been sent to love, to infuse love,
That's
and bring.
yeah, that's your purpose. That's the purpose part. Yeah, like you were all designed with a particular, again, puzzle piece in the universal puzzle to play a particular functional role. It doesn't mean there's nobody else playing that functional role, but nobody's going to play it with the exact design we have and the way that we're designed to do it. So we're slightly different, right, from all the other people with that particular purpose.
Correct.
And yeah, and so anyway, continue.
Yeah. So when I saw that love, giving up love, and ensuring that you do it, there was another part. Give me
The
1 second.
profile is your personality type, which is you're a 3-5, which is the great life experimenter. And that's the open. So you said, even though you like caves, right, you prefer that because that makes you feel safe enough to see the world around you. Like you feel safe to be able to open up, right? So when you're designing spaces, they're open. That's the reflection part of when you allow yourself that comfort of that cave, you can open up and create these openings, right? And experiment and open yourself to the world and feel through it. Because I think your cognition is feeling, which means it's your greatest
Correct.
superpower sense.
Yes, that's what
You
it
can
is.
feel yourself into it, and that all of a sudden, feeling is actually the data point for the heart brain, which again, if your purpose is to love, right, that's a big focus point, a center focus for you, and a purpose, right? Again, that's how you're designed to serve through the heart space and how you create data points through your emotional intelligence to open things up, open things, open people, open to ideas that allow themselves ultimately to self-love. Because we're not going to allow ourselves to do anything if we don't love ourselves first.
Yeah.
Right. And we can use vehicles. We can say God loves you, therefore you can love yourself. We can use vehicles to try to help people back to themselves. You specifically do it from that heart space. I'm designed to do it more instinctively and intuitively. We're the exact same personality
Generator.
type. I'm a 3-5
Gotcha.
too.
Okay.
Well. Yeah. And so we're out there experimenting and trying things on and finding our way forward. Your cognition is feeling, whereas mine is outer vision.
Okay.
So I'm very focused on how things look and data points on, I can tell, it tells me I get a lot of information from my environment and just how it looks. I get a lot of information when I read people's body language, the facial expressions, if they put something to the left or to the right of themselves. Like I'm picking up like tons of data points. You would think that where does the language piece come in? But if you look at my purpose, it factors in that. So it just starts to give us more of that clarity around the different puzzle pieces that make different parts to us that make us up, right? Make us into that ultimate puzzle piece that we fit into in the world. And that's our lane. As I talk about it in my book, our zone of impact is our lane. And if we can determine that puzzle piece, those puzzle piece parameters, if we think of that as a lane, that's the way we're meant to serve, then it's so much easier to be discerning about what fits that and what doesn't. Correct. Where do we put our energy that will allow us to operate within our design, and where are we putting our energy that is making us go outside of that design, which means we're not going to be of greatest service. We're not going to be doing what God created us to do. I mean, doesn't mean we can't be successful. It doesn't mean we can't be loving. But it's going to be hard. Correct. Or harder than when we're doing it from our unique design and the way we were created to do it.
So I'm looking in, and why do I love to watch movies? So I love Nazi era movies.
Mm-hmm.
I and I've told you this before. I love them. Why do I love them? At the end, I'm crying. I'm
Mm-hmm.
crying. I'm desperately crying. Looking, and Verlin tells me, Why do you keep watching these?" But here's the trigger. I say to myself, if one archetype, one architect could architect such hate, I can be that one man that can architect love
That's it.
and just
That's amazing.
change communities. Now, Tracy, in there it had changing communities. Do you remember?
Yep.
It's in that document.
Yep.
Do you know what so Geek Foundation, it's going into communities and showing love and providing opportunities to come in within communities to go in and change communities. And I'm laughing looking at this thing going, wow, God, okay, God, I got you. I'm on the right path. Just yesterday, at church, this guy comes and he says, "You know what? I was praying, man, and God just told me that you're walking in your purpose. You're just walking in your purpose in this season. You're walking." And I go, "Thank you." And then this is for people who like to rely on others, who may like to rely on others. His information wasn't new to me. See, I've already built this relationship where I'm meditating, I'm seeking God, I'm asking, and He's already telling me these things. So if you tell me something new, I'm not being led by Tracy. I'm not being led by the prophet this or that I'm calling. Say, can you pray for me, please? No, no, no. I've already sat down, I've meditated, I've prayed, I've gotten this information not from the brain, but from the spiritual, where some say gut, from the spiritual side, where I'm getting that information and I'm walking that out, so that when you tell me that, I go, "Oh, thank you so much." And I'm not saying this from a place of pride.
Right. No, it's
I,
not.
I, I'm, 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 I'm speaking from a place of
Ownership.
humility first, and
Mhm.
and once you can go in and be intentional about who you are on this earth, there's so much you can do for this earth and for humanity.
Yep. I love that. Well, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, so here's your human design. Before you read it, I'm going to say a couple of things.
Uh-huh.
This will resonate because you already know it.
Mm, mm,
And it's really to help you clarify and articulate what you know. It's not to tell you something you don't know. Although some people, because it really depends, because some people have been so convinced that their value is outside of their lane
oh, wow.
that they were
Wow.
like, but I thought that was a bad thing. I've had people say that. They're like, oh my gosh, this is my human design. And I explain it in the way it's meant to be explained. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing it totally differently, because I always thought that this meant I was egoic, or I was this, or I was that, whatever, right? Whatever, because of
Mm-hmm.
the conditioning,
Mm,
not because that's true. It was the
mm,
meaning that was handed to them.
mm.
Like I was told being a disruptor was bad. Disruption is bad. I mean, you look it up in the dictionary. It's a very
Yeah.
negative definition, right?
Yes.
Not being a
Yeah.
part of, working against the collective, all these things that is like boogie, boogie, boogie. Like, that and any disruptors in history have usually been burned at the stake, cast out of, society, all these, right? And
Yeah.
so, unless you follow, get in line, you're
Mm,
bad, you're evil, you're the devil, you're, whatever. You're trying to ruin society.
mm,
No,
mm,
no. I'm
mm.
here. All disruptors are here for innovation, for betterment, for growth. Every single one is created that way by God,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
To bring about, evolution, intentional evolution. I mean, think about every single thing that we've ever relied on that has brought us to a better place, as human beings, more technology, all of that has been through disruption. So if it's evil, and people are like,
Yep.
yeah, things we've created have been evil. They've done these things. Well, it's because we've utilized them in ways that are. I mean, the thing
Correct.
itself isn't evil. It's how we
Correct.
utilize it, which goes back to the reason because I have the same fascination with World War II. And
Mm.
I think what we're here to do is pick apart the data points. Like, okay, what was this person doing that allowed them to be, so we can take it and create good, right? Like, what is that? What is that approach? What is that? Like, what did this person do? And also what was done. So how can we, if we start going down that slippery slope, how can we be the canaries in the coal mine to say, hey, 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 hey,
Yep.
we've been there before. Don't recommend we
Yeah.
go there again. Right?
Yes.
Been there, done
Yeah.
that. Maybe we need to look at this more intentionally. Are we just
Mm.
blindly, like lemmings, following ourselves off a cliff again? Like,
Yes.
let's do. And a lot of people are doing that. They're like, there's a lot of similarities between what happened pre World War II and what's going on,
Mm.
and like maybe we need to look at that more clearly. And let's not make the same mistakes twice.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. Where we start realizing that we're called, that we have this data that we're internally, utilizing and focusing on, that's
Mm.
leading us in certain directions, and we're not even conscious of it. And that's where turning the cognitive logical head brain onto these realizations. I see human design reports as a way to get this guy on board. This guy or gal, what I'm going to call your head brain,
Mm-hmm.
is how
Mm-hmm.
can we help interpret what these other intelligences are having us doing already. And I tell
Yeah.
people, you've always been who you are and who you were designed to be. You're just not always aware of it. And that's why there's so much internal conflict with people. They're like,
Mm.
they're running off of other people's, beliefs or conditioning. And yet they're
Narratives.
designed narratives, and they were
Yep.
designed to be doing this. And so there's this internal conflict. I mean, we had lots of conversations at Butner Federal Prison when I was working with the men there on that particular topic. Like, where
Mm.
is the tension within you? Where is the fight or the polarization within you? Because
Mm.
that's the point to which your conditioning is battling your authenticity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Tracy, you say this, and I go back to ninth grade. I think it's the junior high, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade, where I had friends who were doing certain things, and I mean, just peer pressure. And I didn't, it was so not me. Oh my goodness. But in order to be with them, I had to do certain things, but I still had a line that I couldn't cross. And
Mm,
it wasn't, and I would tell you, I cannot tell you, Tracy, if I had the wisdom to know it was God just guiding me for me not to experience certain things that they were doing, period. That would have, maybe ruined me, put me off course, just completely, absolutely off course. But I can sit and think and go the different things that just teenage boys would do, and I would go, no, I'm not doing it. And they would say chicken, chicken, chicken. I want, yeah, I'm a
mm,
chicken. I'm okay. I'll be chicken. But here it is, years later, that because I didn't experience, because I think I would say I knew my true north from early on. I just knew it, blessed with it. Knew that I had to if I engaged you, I had to engage you and really encourage you. Period. Just encourage, uplift, and and when you leave, I want you to leave better than when we started to talk.
yeah, I can
Right?
resonate with that. Yeah, great life
So
experimenters have that in common.
there, there you
We're
go.
here to leave things better than we found them. I hear that language a lot from
Mm.
people who have the 3-5. Yeah. The 3 part is the investigator. That's the part of us that's wants to like trial and error. Like, I want to guinea pig myself to the experience so I know what it feels like. I know
Correct.
what it's like to be in that
Correct.
position. And just like you, I've walked fine lines in many spaces much of my life. I mean, even when it came to danger situations, like I
Mm.
was just on the cusp of something happening, and this wasn't always because I put myself in the wrong
You
position. Sometimes
correct.
you get put in the wrong position,
Correct.
where it was that fine line where it could have gone the other way and I'd be off the cliff, you know, but I had the experience of knowing what that was like.
Yeah.
And through that you get data points, right? We watch it in movies, you know, and we read about it in books, but we also, as the 3 part of the 3-5, have to actually physically experience it. It's a big part of us being able to bring that experiential data forward, right? So when we look at someone and go, I see you, they can read in how we are and how we show up that they know we see them because we've had that experience to some degree.
You know, you say that, Tracy, and I think it was Paul who said the things that we go through enables us to go through. For people, I'm highly paraphrasing here, for people who wouldn't be able to know how to navigate and get out of the situations. So we go through them, experience it completely in its fullness of if it's hurt, it's you were experiencing to its fullest. For me, it's foreclosure, it's vulnerabilities just being out there for folks to see, right? That yes, you're doing this, you're making money, and then God takes it tells you leave everything and follow me, and you're losing everything, and he says you'll gain it back. Just last night, I was speaking at this church. After speaking, this kid comes to me and says, there's something going on in my life. I'm afraid that if I stand up and do the right thing, I would become, he didn't say this, he said, my uncle will take me out of the house. And I said, really? And then I said, let me show you something. I showed the house we had built. I showed it to him. I said, you see this house? I said, when you enter here, there's a glass doors here. You go through there. There's a movie theater on the top. The entire 3rd floor is a movie theater with a bathroom and an office and da-da-da. And he's like, I said, do you know what happened? Oh, take care, sis. You got to run. I see what you said. uh, uh, you know what happened here? He says, what? I said, when I obeyed God, I lost that. I said, so what does homelessness have to do with you doing the right thing? I said, I was homeless. I went to a friend's house and stayed from a 4,000 square foot house. We stayed in a 120 square foot room. I said, but this is the same guy standing in front of you telling you, hey, it didn't do anything to me. But see, I have the authority because I've experimented, I've been through this process. So eavesdroppers, as you're going through whatever, and you may not be the 3-5, you may not be the experimenting type, etc. However, whatever you're walking through on earth, don't shy away from it. Don't run it. Don't close it up and say, oh, I'm not going to learn from it. Learn from it, because in the near future, you're going to need that to uplift and take somebody from where they are. And I hear somebody saying, but I'm not vulnerable. I'm not. You better start sharing your story, because you're going to help someone get out of a deep hole.
Or just see themselves differently. I mean, I'm thinking,
Yes.
I shared a post that was Harvard Business Review post. It literally is one of the best things I've seen in a while. It was a little short video of one of he's actually he just, I think the book is out. He co-authored a book with Oprah Winfrey about living your best life, but he's a Harvard Business School, I think it's Harvard Business School professor, but he was talking about identity. And he said, the best thing you can do is realize that we're all running off of identity. He's like, somebody asked me who I am. He's like, I'm a Harvard Business School professor. He's like, why? Because shoot, that shows success. That shows, that's what I choose to identify with. That shows, to be valuable. But he said, the one thing is for sure is that's all going to go away, man. Like, he literally said that. He's like, and that's not who you are, because if that goes away, you're still you. Right? Unless you go away, unless you die, right? You're still you. You can lose titles, you can lose homes, you can.
Oh my goodness.
The horrible things like losing family members, or I mean, you can lose those. You're still here. They're still you, right? You weren't those things, right? I mean, I think one of the most heartbreaking situations has got to be when a parent loses a child, especially at a younger age. And you do see them go through that identity crisis of like, I'm not a mother anymore. I'm not a father anymore.
Yeah.
Let's say it's your only child, and that is true in the sense you will always be because you gave birth or you brought that child into the world, but still, like, you don't have that active identity. That still does not, that's not your identity. That's a role you were playing at that time. Graced by God, you got to play that role and look at what you were able to accomplish during that time. But that did not take you. That is not who you are.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so I believe that that's what I'm hearing you say, is that when we separate the concepts of role, that's what I talk about in There He Is. Go to, for anybody who wants to see that post, I've just posted it today. So if you go to Traci Phillips on LinkedIn, you'll see that that's my most recent post, and share a great video
Gotcha.
that he made to that point. And again, I really feel that when we separate, and I talk about this in my book, the roles from the true soul identity, right? The true soul puzzle piece that we were designed to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot that changes in our lives when we're able to separate, because we've been so conditioned to our identity being the roles, right?
Yeah.
And I'm father, I'm brother, I'm sister. I mean, I say that in the book. Like, if I could not say those things, if I could not identify myself by a role, who would I say I am?
Ooh.
Right. And because we don't have language for that. We're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I would say.
Yeah.
I'm a soul having a human experience.
Right.
And what I love about human design is it isn't about what we've learned, how we've learned how to be in the world based on the world around us. That's what personality and behavior assessment is about. Our personality is created by our interfacing with the outside world, right? We come out of the womb and we go into the world, and we have experiences in the world, and we create this personality based on that. Same thing with behavioral patterns. So all other assessments will tell us how we've adapted to being in the world, but they won't tell us who we were designed to be before we came into it. Right? Now, not to say that's not helpful.
True.
But I think we put the cart before the horse, and that's the whole thing with conditioning anyway, is when we look to the outside world for our identity. We look to the outside world to tell us who we are and how we're valuable and all of that, instead of understanding what that is and taking that into the outside world and saying, when you said it's not hubristic or it's not ego to say this is who I am, that's absolutely true. It's the most humble thing we can do, because what we're saying is this is what I'm giving. This is what I'm gifting to the world. Like, I've taken the time to be intentional about who I am and understand who God created me to be, so I could be of best service to the world.
Yep.
That's the whole point. It's not just to stand out and say, look at how great I was designed to be. It was having that understanding of function, so that we can actually go out there and function in that space, right? Most effectively. And if we're listening to what other people think we should and shouldn't do, or who we are not, we're going to get so lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
Which we have been. And so what I feel like my mission and purpose is to help walk people back home to who they truly are. Help walk them. I'm not taking them there. They're already choosing to go there if they're engaging with me, because that's my purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not, I just get to walk them home. It's like a friend saying, hey, you don't need to walk home alone.
Let's go
I'll
halfway.
walk with you. We can have a dialogue about the importance of this on our way there. You're choosing to walk home. I'm just interpreting the value of that with you. Right? By having that conversation as we walk home. Right?
Yeah. I just got hit with this. To all of us out there, it's so important to not taste something new. try something new. And I'm not and test it. Like before I did this with Tracy, it took me roughly a month or two or three when you told me to send my information to you. I was like, okay. And 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 I had to do my investigation, my personal investigation, in order for me to come in and say, okay, let me see what this is. And believe it or not, if this was something that was some boo boo doo boo doo, man, I'm dumping this thing and saying waste of time, right? Really, I would say it's a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time that I can come in and I see things, almost every line resonating with me, resonating with my spirit, resonating with the path that I'm on now. Like I was looking at it now. So let's go back to it. It says you're a generator, um, and the manifest, and no, it says here, I'm a passive manifester.
Mhm.
What explain that?
Yeah,
Explain that
that's a
to
great
me.
one. I when I first started with human design, that was one of my favorite things to focus on, because when I started coaching, I'm a specific manifester. So we tend to teach and coach the way we're designed, right? Unless we're
Gotcha.
aware. That's one of my favorite things about human design, is allows me to coach my clients based on their design, not mine.
Gotcha.
Right? So that's really important. Right?
That's
Is to keep
important.
keep, how did God create them to be? Let me support them that way, not in the way He created
Mm,
me to be.
that's
Right?
important.
It's important. And
Mm,
again, that's a blind spot. Like, that's a hard one to see, because you're in you and you just know, you look through that lens. And so that has been a game changer, first of all.
yes.
But so, have you ever heard of vision boards before?
Oh yeah.
Vision
I've
boards
got
were
it.
all the rage when movie The Secret came out and all that. But vision boards, people have been using vision boards a long time. And I had a client a number of years ago who loved vision boards, and she
Hmm.
said, I love them, but I really get caught up with the specificity. She's like, when I do
Mm,
mine, it's more like concepts, and it's not specific words and specific, like, I want my house to look like X, this
correct.
house that I have in my picture. And she goes, I also struggle with goals. Smart goals, where you have to be really
Hmm.
specific. Like, I want this by this date. And she's like, I
Measurable.
hate them. I hate them, but I know goals are important. Right. And I remembered this conversation when I got into human design and I saw that specific and passive concept, because I'm like, oh, aha, she was probably a passive
A
manifester.
passive.
Because
Gotcha.
for all of you out there, the difference between the two, obviously manifest means create, right? So we are all designed to create things, right? Our design is to create. So, but we are designed to create in different ways. So there's
Hmm.
this one aspect that they talk about in human design, that some people were designed to create passively. I like to use the word generally, right?
Hmm.
Passively meaning you don't put active focus on specifics, right? Some
Mm,
people are specific based, some people are more general, right? And other people, again, that's the details. So being
hmm.
when I like to use the car analogy. So if I were to ask the question, somebody, tell me about your dream car. Describe to me your dream car. A specific manifestor like myself will tell you the make, the model, the color, the type of interior.
The
Like all
smell.
of the smell, all the specifics. It has a moonroof, or it has a sunroof, or it has, it's whatever. It's automatic.
Yeah.
It's standard, it's stick shift, whatever. I will tell you all those things right out of the gate,
Hmm.
because that helps me form the concept of what I want to create, right? What I
Mm,
want to bring about is the
hmm.
specifics. As someone like Wulwyn, that question, Wulwyn is going to give me more general responses. I want something that's
Hmm.
fuel efficient, or it carries in it. Like, I've got a bunch of kids and people. Like, it needs to be a big, like a truck that has a big, what's it called?
Bed.
Bed.
The
Yeah,
bed.
big. Like a drawing of I live in the world of trucks. You live in the South, everybody's got a truck,
I
but
know, right?
I can't even think about those words. But anyway, it's general. He doesn't, not to say he doesn't care about make and model. He may be aware of certain makes and models that he likes, but by
Hmm.
asking him that question, that's not what resonates for him. What
Mm,
resonates is the experience. he wants to have with that car and what he wants to use it for, and how he, all that stuff, right? So if you think about it, we need people who focus on specifics, and we need people who focus on impact. That's the experience
Correct.
part, right?
Yeah.
What is the impact of that going to be? And so passive manifestors are more impact oriented, right,
Gotcha.
in their design, and specific are more, what are the specific things that are going to get us to that impact,
Gotcha.
right?
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
in general, right? Like, because people, and then there's other aspects of the design. But so that part, yeah, I really love that
Yeah.
part when I learned about
When
it.
I saw that, I laughed and I was like, okay. And there are aspects to it. I remembered a long time ago. I I said, so I'm in Liberia at the time. We don't have microwaves. We don't have, because when you cook back in the day that I'm talking about in the 80s, you cook, you would put it in the bottom of the oven and cover, and it would keep the food warm. And I was daydreaming, and because I do that a lot, where I form my future with that. And I truly do. And I said to my, and I was telling Verlin this when we were kids. I said, in the future, I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna be hungry, and I'm gonna put the food in something, and I'm just gonna press the buttons. And in less than a few seconds, I would have my food hot and I would sit down and eat it. So years later, we get married and we're talking to something. She says, did you know about a microwave? I'm like, no, I didn't know about a microwave. It was my thoughts forming this thing that I would do. So what I'm
That would
saying
help you
here,
have a particular experience.
correct.
Yeah.
I want to invite you, eavesdroppers, please turn the TV off for a second or two and form your future. And when I say form your future, just sit down and dream it. My son says it's hard. I'm like, okay, I understand it's hard. I said, but try. Just try and see. Take yourself now to tomorrow, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Just play with it. Play with it, but be
That's
intentional in your
important.
in your play. And I tell you, Tracy, two kids. I remembered I'm driving. I'm driving in Cary. This is I'm unmarried, and I'm imagining, I'm dreaming about two kids in the back of the car, and I'm telling them, stop kicking the back of my chair. I'm driving. Da 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 da. Fast forward a couple of years, two kids in the back of the car kicking the chair, and I'm like, yeah, stop kicking it. And I go, oh, oh. I mean,
I remember,
okay.
yeah, envisioning that. Well, and what I like to, because my daughter does this all the time. She's like, I think a lot of kids, especially these days, can feel a lot of pressure. Like, what am I going to do when I grow up? What am I going to study in college? My daughter's going through that right now because she's applying for
Wow.
colleges, and they like
Wow.
to have you put on the application, what are you going to be studying? And so,
Yes.
and she just shifted. By the way, I was shocked. She had been interested in criminal studies and psychology, and now she wants
Okay.
to do business with a psychology minor. I mean, she just she
Psychology
wants
is
to be an
still there.
entrepreneur of some sort. I mean,
Okay.
both, my husband and I are entrepreneurs, and so and she
True.
just all of a sudden,
True.
had a conversation with a UNC professor, and out of that, she was like, I have always had this deep dream to start a bakery restaurant, B&B, something like that,
Oh,
and
wow.
I remember this from talking to my mom about it as a kid, and I really feel like I think I
Oh,
want
wow.
to do something in that, so I want to study business. So anyway, but up until more recently, it is it's really felt so stressed. And so I love that you said dream. I think we've
Mm-hmm.
forgotten how to dream. We've been so focused on doing things for particular reasons. Like we need to,
Hmm.
do this to get that we don't allow ourselves to just deepen into, again, our data points. Like, what am I feeling?
Yeah.
Like Madison told this professor, like, God, it's weird. Like this vision kept coming up even as a kid. You know,
Wow.
and mom would talk about how she always wanted to have like an inn or something with a bakery attached or whatever. And I remember mom talking about that and was like, oh my gosh, yes. Like as a little
Wow.
kid that she really loved that idea and it stuck with her.
Mm,
And so
mm,
that's where those seeds tend to first be germinated or recognized or at
yeah.
least thought about. And then we just leave them to the side, like, whatever. We don't take much stock in that. But you can tell a lot from what you wanted to do as a kid,
Yes.
and it may not always look just like that. Like I have a college friend who I think he was kind of confused by it at times. Where he's like, I always felt like I would just go into like ministry or something,
Mm-hmm.
like whether he was going to be a priest or something like that. But it didn't really completely jive with like what he wanted to experience in life. So I think I also invite people like that to say, well, how can you do this and that? Maybe it's not priesthood, that might be too strict of, a role, and that way you can't have other experiences, or you feel you can't have other experiences.
Yeah.
But maybe you're being called into a spiritual line of doing something, maybe,
Yes.
being involved in building churches in other parts of the world, or, who knows. But I think it's where were those inklings and what comes through? Because again, that's what I love about human design is you can also see that certain things are going to be, people say you're so fortunate to be doing what you're passionate about. I'm like, it's not so much fortune as just following my bliss. Like, I mean,
Correct.
I did not start, as a coach in this particular field. I started as in a very traditional way. I went to school for something that I got credentialed in and that I practiced and but I
Yeah.
allowed myself to unfold within that
Mm,
role. I didn't
mm.
identify that role as my raison
Yes.
d'etre, reason for being, as the French say. I experienced it and allowed it to shape me more within my design so that I could eventually, and to you too, to be able to
Mm,
leave certain things behind in order to follow your bliss. I mean, I've had to leave not had to, I've chosen to leave careers,
yes.
relationships, places because I was led. It wasn't easy,
It
but
wasn't.
there was
Mm,
something deeper at play. There was that design that needed to be manifested. There
yeah.
was that purpose that needed to be served,
Mm,
right?
mm.
That was greater than
Greater
the
than,
need to
yes.
stay comfortable in what I already knew and established.
Whew, whew. Tracy, you were talking something. I got 2 more minutes. I'll close and then I'm not close. I'll say this and then you give the goodbye. I'll wrap up. You talked about you know it, you know it, what you want to do, but it's not so well defined per se, like the guy being a priest or in ministry. See, mine was, I knew I was a builder, and the builder process was both spiritual, physical, materially, right? I want to build hospitals, schools, churches, etc., but then it's to build people. So there's another part that I do where it's counseling, leadership counseling, right? Executive counseling with people who just extract. I say it like this: everybody has so much power, more powerful than a nuclear bomb, and they only need to mine it in order for it to explode and find its purpose. So that builder, that thing that I said, I'm a builder. I'm a builder of people. I'm a builder of structures. I'm a builder in the full sense of the word, that God has placed in us to go ahead and just fill that space and fill it with experience, fill it with education, fill it with what you know you're supposed to be doing. And knock on Tracy's door and see what your human design says. Tracy, give us our goodbye, dear.
Well, I was just going to say, how did you feel when you saw that you were a generator and they're otherwise known as the world builders?
Now you want to make me go, huh. Yes. When I saw that, I go, well,
The rest
needless
of
to
this report is
say,
probably going to be pretty spot on.
correct. When it says, go and be a builder, and I'm just amazed. I'm happy that I didn't close myself up. I didn't go into astrology. She's doing some gooey stuff there in the background. No, it's I could share this with everybody. I don't care. You can see it and find out who I am, and it will make you. It will give you the will spur you on to explore this. Right? It was spot on, Tracy. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with me.
Oh, well, I'm just kind of a deliverer of it. And I'm so glad. I mean, I let people know, I'm like, if it's not like, this is not helpful for you, put it aside. I have no attachment to it. Like some people might be like, well, this is great. Other people are like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, that's all right. But I do believe that the more, I think the takeaway from this that I keep hearing is the openness. If we can remain curious, what could unfold from this moment? Whether this moment is something challenging or great or whatever it is, what can unfold?
Yes.
I think that's the title or the focus for today that I.
What can unfold? What? Say that again, so I can. Anyway, we're gonna catch up on the flip side.
Yeah, if you open up, what can unfold from that?
Yeah.
Like curious, what possibilities come from curiosity?
Whew. And again, guess what? I experimented with it. See that? The experimenting type comes into play.
Totally.
But
Every
hey,
time.
eavesdroppers, thank you so much, Tracy. Wonderful hanging out with you always. See you in the
Likewise.
next 2 weeks. EP 17. So you guys take care.
Take care,
Bye. Everyone.